All right, y'all, welcome back to the Decide It's Your Turn podcast. I'm so excited. This is my first official day recording in my house off Zoom. We are going to try to liven things up on the podcast. So if you've never watched us over on YouTube, please do. We're going to cut up some amazing clips because I really wanted this podcast to get elevated. And I figured, get the hell off Zoom, create a real camera, do all the things. So we're kind of doing a makeshift podcast studio here in my living room. And my living room's gorgeous. So I figured, why not use it? And plus, it's hopefully nicer for you guys. Today, my podcast is all about things that we've been talking about so much with clients lately, which is high-end, high-level, high-achieving struggles that all of my clients have. And today, I know this won't necessarily be for every single person, but I know that someone listening to this is just going to feel like so seen because these things have been coming up so often lately. So I created a list about 5-7 things that my clients have been struggling with and how we're actually helping them through it together, how we actually get the client through these struggles. And I think it's going to be an eye-opening experience for so many of you to kind of hear what everyone else is actually dealing with and struggling with too, because one of the things that I have learned over the last 8 years of being a coach to these high achievers, high performers, CEOs, entrepreneurs, is that everyone pretty much struggles with the exact same thing. It was funny, I don't know if you can tell, but I went and got my eyes done recently by Dr. Rednam down in Houston. It was an awesome experience. And right before she was cutting my eyes, she said to me, she goes, "So what do you do with all of your clients? Like, what are the biggest struggles?" And I was like, "Girl, you have the exact same struggles that they have. It's everything from, being overwhelmed to staff, to employees, to financial, to feeling like you're always failing." And then there's like so many things that oftentimes people don't talk about. And like, that's why the coaching container is so cool. And the fact that a lot of, high achievers, high performers, everyone on the outside thinks everything's great all of the time. But what I know and my job, and one of the best parts about my job is like this container of honestly, how excited I am that I get to be the safe space for a lot of my high achieving clients because, it's hard to say that you're struggling, even though outside, externally, a lot of people wouldn't say that you're quote unquote struggling. If you have a successful practice, if you are making a lot of money, there's so many things that are a struggle, even if you're making a lot of money, even if you're at the top of your game in your industry, like life's. And I think that it's one of the coolest experiences for me that I get to be that safe space for so many clients. So today I wanted to go through, like I said, I have about 5 to 7 things that my, high achieving, very successful clients are dealing with. And I wanted to share with you today what those are, what the common themes are, and how we actually work through them together. So please always feel free to send me a text message, 501-222-3362. If you have any questions or if any of this resonates with you, give us a like. If you're watching this anywhere on social media or on YouTube, send us a comment, send me a DM. I am open and available all the time. So what is the very first thing that I thought of when I'm thinking about my high achieving clients? Well, number one, they're burnt out with their own needs because they're consistently making decisions and consistently executing on everyone around them. That is one of the things that high achievers struggle with and that, not everyone really truly understands. When you're the top, no matter what industry you're in, no matter what area of life you're in, when you're at the top, you are the person for everyone. And it's very rare that you actually have one person for you. And by the time that you make 35,000 decisions in a day, and a lot of these decisions are extremely important, whether it be a business decision, whether it be a life decision. By the time that you make all of these decisions for everyone else, you are completely burnt out on being able to make a decision for yourself. And that is one of the things that I see so often with my clients and why I am, I truly believe that like I call my coaching oftentimes a relationship coaching, not a relationship like we're in a relationship, but kind of in the fact that I have people come to me and I do life with them. I do business with them. Like I am a part of their life and the relationship that we create together because my job is to be able to sometimes call them out when I see that they're actually depleted for themselves and they're not taking care of themselves. And the decisions that they need to make for themselves are things that they actually can't do because they've already made so many decisions. They're so burnt out that by the time they get to themselves, they can't make one more decision. This decision fatigue is beyond real. And, if you're listening to this, you are probably putting your hand up. If you're one of these people, high achievers, high performers, CEOs, whatever, whomever you are listening to this, if you are one of those people, I'm sure your hand has gone way up in the air, because that is so true. You cannot make one more decision. And oftentimes you, the person, the higher up, is the person who's, really depleted at the end of the day. And you're the person who doesn't take care of yourself because you're taking care of everyone else. So one of the things that we do together is really my job, like I said, is like I'm in a relationship with them. I get to know them so well that I can really pick out where it is that they perhaps are lacking, where they completely deplete themselves. Like I have clients where I literally know anything from I know when they're on their cycle to I know that they don't eat. Like I sometimes have clients, and I know that there's a few of my clients listening to this podcast who are going, oh my God, she's calling me out for monitoring my eating. Well, newsflash, you're not the only one. I have numerous clients over the years that like sometimes I just pop in to say, hi, did we eat today? And I know that might seem so insignificant, but when you really think about the tiniest little things that people deal with every single day, that can make such a difference in a person's life. That can make such a difference in being able to take care of yourself. And we come up with simple ways. Like, honestly, I have a client that I literally made her create a list of 10 meals that she can eat on repeat that she has the food in her fridge or in her desk, or that she can order, or whatever it is. So we know that one decision, because she's got 75,000 other decisions to make, that decision is actually going to happen, because this is all a huge ripple effect. You might be thinking to yourself, I can't believe that someone would pay someone to have a coach to tell them to eat. Well, this is just one of like 1,000 things that we do. But think about this. If you have a tendency of always putting yourself on the back burner, you're never eating, you're never taking care of yourself, do you know what that does to a person's life? Not only just mentally, but physically, emotionally. You treat yourself like garbage. Maybe you come home and you binge eat and you eat like dog shit, and then you feel horrible the next day. Like all of these tiny little things that people don't think of matter so much in the grand scheme of a person having a fulfilled life. And that's really what I am here to do with my clients, is to ensure that they have like a life that actually is in alignment to them. And if a person is not eating, or eating like shit, or neglecting themselves, this is just a ripple effect into your business. This is why I always say business and personal is so intertwined. I am not a coach who says I'm just a business coach or I'm just a mindset coach. Everything is together, and it all literally comes together. And it's a holistic approach that I take to ensure that you're making like choices for your life and your career and your alignment, because no matter how much money you make, or no matter where you are in your career, if it's out of alignment, or you feel like shit, or it's affecting your home life, that stuff matters to me. And that's oftentimes what we get into sometimes with the nitty gritty of making simplest decisions. I know that food was just a little analogy, a little example, but honestly, it's so true when you think about it. And maybe that'll resonate with one of you. Okay, so like, what is the next thing that a lot of my clients deal with? The lack of space to be honest. This is something that every single one of my clients, over the year or 2 or 5 that we end up working together, it has become a safe space for so many of my clients. Because when you're at the top, when you're the leader, when you're the CEO, when you're the business owner, when you're the manager, whenever you're at the top, even if you're not even this isn't even for business. Let's just say you're in a career, but you're at the top. You have very few people who understand what it's like to have the responsibility that you have. And honestly, I am sometimes just the safe space where they can like either break down, or they can bitch, or they can literally say what is on their mind in order to get that out, to be able to take action, to move forward. And sometimes it's deep processing. Sometimes I use the word trauma. Trauma, they say there's big T and little t and all the things, but trauma is trauma. And if you have something that's really holding you back, from being your best or from enjoying your life to the fullest, we work through that, because those are the things that actually matter. Those are the things that you need to have a space to process. And when you're at the top, you feel like no one understands, because what is the general consensus? The general consensus is you're at the top, you have no problems, you should be fine. Well, that's all bullshit, because we are human beings doing human things. And it doesn't matter if you're the CEO of a $100 billion company, or you're a Joe Blow making $200,000 a year but still has that responsibility, or you're a stay-at-home mom who's managing the house, who's taking care of everything, and you feel like you always have to have it together. Well, you don't. And if you don't have a space to put that, and if you don't have a space to process that, that will come back to beat you, or to bite you in the ass. I absolutely promise you. Oftentimes too, I think, my clients, they need a place to feel like they can be honest in regards to, the way that they feel about themselves, the way that they feel about their family or their marriage, their finances. This is something that comes up all the time. So I have clients over the years that, yes, they're doing well financially, but just like in anything, there's always highs and lows. And so many people feel shame around money. They feel shame around the way that they look. They feel shame at the way that they've acted in their previous lives or whatever. There's so much that people are dealing with. And if you don't have a space for that, if you don't have a person that can be your honest, like, for your secret space or whatever it is, that's going to come back to bite you in the ass in the long run. I promise you. And I have heard everything under the sun. There is nothing that shocks me now, but I'm also super honored that people trust me enough, because that's my job. My job sometimes is not only to give the strategy, not only to be there to, build their businesses and do all that kind of stuff, but a lot of the time it is to be the one person that can handle all of their shit, so we can process it out, so we can figure out what action they need to take. And sometimes it's not with me, but at least we know how to move through it. At least there's a person on the planet who is just for you. This is why a lot of my full-time clients love the fact that they have 24/7 access to me. I had a client just the other day tell me, she's worked with numerous coaches over the years, and she's like, I guarantee you, I could never send one of my former coaches this. It'll probably cost me $5,000 to do it. And I said, well, number one, that's bullshit. And number two, that's the reason why I'm the fucking best. And that's the reason why I pride myself on giving my clients the utmost, highest quality experience. The reason why I have been sold out for so many years, the reason why so many people stick with me for years, is because I am that safe space, because I am the person who is going to jump through fire in order to help them. That is what I do. That is why I'm the best. And I am more than happy to say it. And it matters to me so deeply. This work matters because it's a ripple effect. Once we process out what it is that we need to process, once you feel safe in this container, then we can start taking actions to move forward. And a person who is moving forward, a person who's in alignment, a person who is actually enjoying the experience of being the high-level CEO, that ripple affects not only to your employees, but your family and to yourself. Because what's the fucking point of working so damn hard if you're miserable all the time? And maybe ask yourself that question. If you're fucking miserable most of the time, what are you doing? Like, I don't want you to put it all in the garbage. That was another one of the things that I wrote down here, is like, a lot of times my high achieving clients, they get to a point that they're unfulfilled or they're unaligned. And I literally don't believe, and I don't think there's been one client I've ever said, okay, let's burn it all down and start again. What I think we need to do is we need to figure out what's working and what's not working. And that's something that a lot of my high achieving, high successful clients do, because I think that there's a point in time where the monotony of our lives just kind of sinks in, and then you think you want to do something completely different. And the actual fact is, you really don't want everything to be completely different. So we have to be able, my job is to give them clarity and be able to listen to what are they actually lacking? Where are you actually struggling? And by the time that I actually listen to what they're asking, we can usually piecemeal together something that needs to change. We don't have to change the whole entire thing. You don't have to put your company in the garbage because you're like, fuck this, I never want to do this again. It's usually just one or two things that we can get back into alignment, that we can change, that we can add in, that that we can take out that do make a world of difference for my clients. But, oftentimes we need this space in the coaching container to be able to process that, to see what that is, to get some clarity so they can move forward and take some action to actually get that. And so, that craving of more, a lot of high achievers want more, 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 but we have to figure out what that more is. And I think oftentimes, most people just think like, put it in the garbage. This is the worst thing ever. I mean, geez Louise, my husband and I go for a walk every day, and there's been times probably once a week where he's like, screw this shit. I'm burning it all down. I'm firing everyone. No, and if any of his employees are listening, no, he's not shutting it down anytime soon. I hear this from every successful person I work with. 99.999% of the time, you do not actually want to do that. What you want to do is you want to change one or two small things. And that's what I figure out with my clients together. We figure out what is it that they actually need to change to be able to take more aligned action to get them more of what they want, and then eliminate the things that are not working. So that was the third thing. What is the fourth thing? Oh, this is such a big topic for a lot of my high achievers, and they feel guilt for everything, especially you women. So obviously I work with men and women, but especially you women feel so guilty for everything. And if I could just grant you one wish, it would be to please quit feeling so guilty. You're doing the best that you can. 99% of you are doing the best that you fucking can. And guess what? That is enough. You are enough. And I promise you, all of the guilt that you feel towards your children, towards your marriage, towards your family, towards your employees, I promise you is not as bad as you think. But that is one of the things that we definitely process out together. Not enough time for everyone. That is one thing, like there's not enough time in the day. How many high achieving, very successful people do you know that says there's not enough time, there's not enough time? And you're right. That is the thing that I always say too, is like, time is my most valuable asset. I'm so grateful for time. It's the thing that I probably value the most in this world is time. But, oftentimes people think that they're not doing enough. They're always shoulding on. I call it the shoulding on themselves. Like you're shoulding, like I should do this. I should do this. I should do this. And I oftentimes think, okay, if you really should do this, let's get clarity on actually, do you want to do this? Should you actually be doing this? Is this where your time is most valuable? And time is one of the most valuable assets there is. And one of the things that my high achieving clients we do together is we figure out, where are you actually wanting to devote a lot of your time? I've done many podcasts and videos on the 3Ds: delete, delay, and delegate. And if usually we can run kind of what we're doing on a weekly, monthly, daily basis through that and figure out how to gain more time, but really processing out the guilt that you feel, processing out, feeling guilty for not doing everything for everyone. If you should be home, you should be working. It's the shoulding on yourselves. And I think oftentimes what we can do together in the coach client container is we really figure out, do you actually want to do something different? Or are you just having the pattern that you should be doing something? Oftentimes I think most things that a lot of people struggle with are just patterns, stories, patterns, and habits. If I really could sum up, it's horrible marketing, to be honest with you. If I marketed myself on what I actually do, which is help clients reprogram stories, patterns, and habits, that would just never sell because no one really understands what that is. But if you truly understood that you have to reprogram certain things to get different results, everyone would be throwing credit cards at me, because I promise you, that is the thing that's actually going to get you something different. And until you start changing your stories, your patterns, your habits, you're going to be in the same rut. You're going to be in the same routine. And that's the thing that you're really looking to change. Because if you want something different, you're going to have to do something different. And it starts by thinking something different. It really does. It starts by thinking and then taking different actions to get different results. So for me and my clients, it's just figuring out, like, what is the guilt? What does that actually look like? How to reframe that? And also sometimes that does come with taking different actions. And I'm definitely, I say to my clients all the time, I'm going to hold you to do that like white on rice. I'm going to be on top of you to actually be able to make the changes that you want to do. And I think sometimes when you pay, you what is my analogy that I always say? When you pay, you play. Pay attention. When you pay attention. Oh my God, I cannot believe I forgot that. I say it far too often. When you pay attention. And it's true. Sometimes you just have to pay someone to make you show up. The other day, I was on a call with a husband and wife client, and the husband said, "Well, she's late for everything." I go, "Well, guess what? She's never been late for this call." He goes, "Well, yeah, we pay a lot of money for this call." And I said, "There you go. It's because when you pay attention." And it's true. If you want to actually change something or make yourself show up to something, it's amazing what will happen when you throw a few $100s at something. A lot of people start paying attention. And if you have to do that, there's nothing wrong with that. I've said for years, I pay my personal trainer. I've probably worked with the same guy for 7 or 8 years. Josh, he's like my second husband. Well, guess what? That guy gets paid every single week, whether I'm there or not. So my ass doesn't like to waste money. And I know I'm going to show up every bloody time. I promise you, in 8 years, I probably missed that guy 4 times. It just doesn't happen because I know myself well enough to know that, like, if it's on the schedule and I pay to play, I'm going to show up. So perhaps that's what you need to do. And there's nothing wrong with that. People do it all day, every day. And if that's the thing that you need in your life in order to show the fuck up to get a different result, maybe it's about time. All right. So what's the last thing? Oh gosh, this is a huge one for all of my high achieving clients. And that is team. If there is one overarching theme of all of my high achieving, a lot of my business owner, entrepreneur clients, it's this one or two things. One, it's staff, it's team, it's employees. That is always on the top of their mind. It's either we hate them all or we love them all so much and we do not want to let them down. It is a balance between the two, and it goes back and forth second by second. And then the second thing is definitely finances. Owning your own business is not for the faint of heart. When you have payables and you have people coming to get money from you, and you have people on receivables, all of these things that we literally have to deal with constantly, day in and day out. I have a client who sends out almost $1 million worth of invoices at one time for a job. That is like make your heart stop type of pressure sometimes. And those are the things that high achieving clients deal with all the time. One of the things that we just did with one of my clients who does send out these huge, multi-6-figure invoices is we figured out a different payment schedule so it's less of a bite. Figuring out how you can actually bring that process in. A lot of the things that I do with clients is coming up with different strategies that actually help the business. Whatever it is. So with this client in particular, it was coming up with a different payment structure and a different contract structure. So it wasn't constantly this like fight or flight nervous system deregulation every time that an invoice went out or when an invoice is coming in. It's wild. I say that I can 100% know my clients, how they're going to be on a certain week based on two things. For my female clients, it's definitely their cycle. You just know when they all want to burn it down. But a second thing is payables and receivables, right? It's just one of these things that, like, if you're waiting for these huge checks where your account balance is $500,000 and then the next week it goes down to $50,000, that's a nervous system deregulation like crazy. And we figure out how to actually not only just logically, but feel it in your body as well, because it is wild what clients experience when it comes to finances, and then also staff too. Everything from when you have to fire someone to hiring to, when not clients, but when your employees are struggling, when there's drama, it's just everything from HR issues to managerial issues, and just having a place that my clients can come and we can really process that out, because it's what everyone experiences. And I think the main overarching theme of this podcast is really the fact that everyone's experiencing the exact same thing. You are not alone. So perhaps you've heard something on today's episode where you're just like, holy shit, it's just not me. And the answer is you're absolutely correct. It is just not you. You are not the only one. Everyone experiences it. But I think what happens when you have someone like myself as your coach to be able to process things out, it makes the experience so much easier to handle. You don't feel like you're alone. You don't feel like you're failing. You don't feel like you want to put the business in the garbage can and say, fuck this, I'm going to work at Starbucks. It's got to be easier. Because the answer is it's not going to be easier. The thing is, we just got to make the process more easeful. I've never once shown up and said, I'm just going to make everything super easy for you and you're never going to have a problem again, because that is a complete lie. And anyone who's selling you that is full of absolute dog shit, and they should be off the world right now. Like, that pisses me off more than anything, because it's just a lie. You're always going to have these, no matter how much money you're making. You could be making $100,000 a year, or you could be bringing in $10 million worth of revenue. You're always going to have problems. You're always going to have things that come up. But my thing about it is, how do we make it more easeful? How do we get through it quicker? How do we make the process better to where it's not such deregulation of your nervous system and your energy every single week or day or month or whatever it is? Like, we have to be able to figure out how to make those bad days a little less bad, and we have to shorten the length in which you're in constant chaos and feeling like you're doing it wrong. And I feel like that's what a lot of my clients come to me for. And I'm so proud of that, because a lot of my clients are unbelievable high achievers, amazing human beings who are just really trying to enjoy the experience of being a business owner, being a high achiever, being an entrepreneur, or whatever it is. And sometimes it's just fucking hard. It just is fucking hard. And I'm not going to tell you there isn't hard days for my clients, because that would be a complete lie. But how do we make it more easeful? How do we make it more enjoyable? How do we make it feel like you're not alone? And how do we get you through that so you can take action? You're very clear, confident in order to take the next action. So those were a lot of the things that a lot of my clients struggle with, and that you too are probably struggling with. And if you are, trust me, you're not alone. It can be easier. And if any of this has, resonated with you today, please send me a message. I'd love to connect with you to see if you and I working together would be a great experience. My application process for the podcast for the coaching has now been put out. And so if you are interested in working with me, there is now an application process, because I always want to make sure it is the perfect fit between you and I to work together, so you can decide it's your turn to have an amazing life, to continue to be the high achiever that you are, but also enjoy the experience. You guys, I appreciate you so much for being here. Please share this podcast. Be sure to check us out on YouTube, and I will see you next time.